What's going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you about Fisker. I want to go over some of the current data points and my overall thoughts on it and what needs to be done. Before I get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. And with that said, let's get right to it. So based on Friday, it did go down 4.22%. As far as volume, it's still getting a lot of attention. 182.9 million shares were traded. 124.1 is the average. Unfortunately, despite the higher volume, it is a lot of just algorithmic trading and shorts. That's where it's coming from, because as you can kind of see right here, there's been no transactions over $100,000 coming from large institutions. So big money isn't really buying Fisker. And when it comes to the dark pool, there was no transactions on Friday, the last one being on the 18th, over $100,000. So even shorts aren't really doing all that much with Fisker. And at the time of doing this video, there hasn't been any recent news. So last news came out on the 21st. And for SEC filings, there hasn't been anything. So the last one was on the 18th, and I've already done a dedicated video all about that. And so when it comes down to Fisker, there was this that did also come out recently saying that Fisker was halting production for 6 weeks so they can kind of focus on, I guess, securing additional funding. And I think that's key, because that'll really dramatically reduce its expenses. But at the same time, though, I feel like a lot of people are feeling like this is just too late, because that $150 million financing note that was announced on the 18th, yeah, that's good, but that'll only push it for maybe about a month and a half based on how much they're burning through. So all in all, I do feel they have about 2 months left in their entirety as a whole to survive. If they do not get a deal or a partnership with a big OEM in the next 2 months, then this is where Fisker is just going to completely bleed out. And even aside from that bigger picture, though, they still have to rectify that deficiency with the New York Stock Exchange, that $1 bid price rule. So definitely Fisker has like a lot to kind of jump over. And that's even if they can survive bankruptcy, they still have to stay on the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. If not, then they'll get delisted. There's just so much going on with this company. Clearly, just institutions do not want anything to do with it. So right now, it's an interesting stock. I think most individuals getting into this have a lot of high appetite for risk, essentially, because when it comes down to EVs, I think a lot of EVs right now are just struggling overall. And then there's Fisker, they have lack of liquidity. So there's kind of different levels of risk in EVs, and Fisker is definitely the highest of them. Looking at shorts, though, they aren't really doubling down. It is on the threshold list, but 24.53% of the free float is being shorted, and that works out to be 111.03 million shares overall are being shorted. On Friday, shorts did increase 2.37 million shares, and cost to borrow average is 14.86%. Utilization is 84.26% as well. But the reason why I say that shorts aren't really doubling down, given the amount of fear that's in Fisker right now, you would assume that they'd be maybe at the 40% kind of range, because there's a similar company going through kind of a situation in among itself, and that's Faraday. Their short interest right now is 45 to 50%. So Fisker being at 24.53%, I feel like is fairly conservative if you want to consider it that way. Right now, there hasn't been any recent analyst rating. So last one was still done 22 days ago. $1 price target, TD Cowen. Jeff, who does have right here a 43% success rating, so not all that great. Right now, there hasn't been any change to the ownership, so no recent 13Fs to kind of disclose. Last one was on the 29th, and that was just BlackRock Advisors UK, reducing their shares by 219,000. But aside from that, though, retail still does own a good chunk of the float, so 296.86 million shares being held by other, aka retail. And while I'm actually on here looking at this, so the latest Morningstar report does show the fair market value based on assets of Faraday being 69 cents. So that has also gone down dramatically since I started to cover this, roughly about 3 to 4 months ago. But quickly going back over to this, so looking at some of the data, more specifically options, $103,000 in calls being purchased versus 339,000 in puts. Sentiment wise, 50% of all the options being done on Friday were optimistic, although when it comes to shorts, any stock that's kind of being heavily shorted, you have to take that with a grain of salt, because a lot of shorts do cover with call options just in case the underlying asset does go up, then they're kind of covered. So this again kind of restricts a short squeeze, because for instance, if Fisker was to come out with some epic news causing it to go up 4, 5, 600%, which is absolutely crazy, but amazing to see if that was to happen, shorts would be covered because they would be buying 50-cent call options, so there would be no squeeze essentially. So that's kind of the downfall of options and what does happen on a very beaten down stock, and shorts as well. But when it comes to the technicals, so right now with it at just over about 12.5 or under 12.5 cents, it is exactly on this S1. So once again, going into next week, you'll want to watch for this kind of S1 to hold, or if it does continue to break down, because Friday it did actually bounce off of this S2, so just over 12 cents. So right now it is showing a broader breakdown just up until essentially Fisker comes out with news saying that they made a deal with X individual or whatever else. I'm not really sure, unless they just go silent, and then eventually this is going to just continue to trend down. And because like I said, they do realistically, that's factoring in that 150 million as a side note, that is, they have about 2 months left, so it's not necessarily the best. So it is what it is. Let me know your thoughts on Fisker. Are you bold or brave enough to still buy it? Have you been selling? What have you been doing? And just realistically, do you think that it was smart for them to halt production for 6 weeks? Because you kind of, if you think about it, like, it's cutting down on a significant amount of operations, but let's say they do get a OEM deal or a partnership. Well, to the cost associated to restarting up production is going to be so much more impactful than them halting it. That's just my own opinion, of course, but definitely it's an interesting play. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. One final thing, make sure you guys take advantage of this promo only up until March the 31st. Simply sign up for an account with Moo for $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000, so take advantage of this. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.